Hi, my name is Caitlin Pope, and I'm going to be doing a professional development presentation on educational fair use, copyright, and Creative Commons. I'll be answering questions about what materials you can use and what permissions you have under copyright. First and foremost, we are going to discuss educational fair use. What is fair use? It is the ability to use something without explicit permission or payment. The educational setting contributes to society in a positive way, so it falls under fair use, but not everything you do as an educator falls under the fair use category. Sometimes you need explicit permission, or sometimes permission isn't granted. There are 4 considerations to use. The nature of the use of the work is important in that what are you using it for? Are you using it as a supplement, or are you using it as a whole? These considerations are very important in protecting the owner's rights. Second, the nature of the work used is going to be how you changed it and things like that. The extent of the use is how much you used. Basically, it's the difference between using one chapter or a whole book compared to a sentence. That's the extent of the use and the appropriateness of that use. And last, the economic effect is basically the economic effect on you as a person. Are you gaining from it? And the economic effect on the owner, is the owner losing from it or not gaining in an appropriate manner? In educational fair use, citing work is always appropriate, and this fair use does not limit you in any way to your teaching. It is to protect the rights of the owner. It's a case-by-case basis, but overall, no profit making should be happening and no using the entirety or an unnecessarily large amount of the work. If you are using something that is copyrighted and is not explicitly used to copy in your classroom, that is probably infringing on the copyrights even with fair use. And make sure that we keep our First Amendment rights, but it's allowing credit where credit is due, and that we can speak what we know, speak what we found out, but also making sure that people's ideas are credited. Confusion with the rules of educational fair use should not conflict with your ability to teach, and there are other ways you can use materials if you are worried about any educational fair use infringements. For example, Creative Commons is relatively new, and sharing is allowed through free legal tools and licenses. In this way, the license holder can claim various conditions instead of having all rights reserved as in copyright. There's only some rights reserved. These are a part of a copyright agreement, and under copyright you must have explicit permission, but under Creative Commons there are various cases in which explicit permission is granted or not granted. Others can build on the creative material, hence Creative Commons. So it encourages creativity, culture, and sharing of information without limiting any educators or limiting the knowledge of people. The Creative Commons website has an area to use search engines to find creative elements you may use under these terms. It's not an actual search engine itself, but it does direct you to these things that will allow you to search for specific Creative Commons material, so you don't have to worry about anything like that. There is a public domain under Creative Commons where all the material is free to use, so none of that has any restrictions. You also may create and get a Creative Commons license or put your work in the public domain, so you may do either of those things yourself as long as you've created everything. This type of license takes into account the internet, which has not been explicit in previous copyright rules because the internet wasn't made when copyright was originated. There are 3 layers of licenses in Creative Commons. There's the legal code for lawyers, the Commons Deed, which we can read, and machine readable code, which makes it easier to search for on the internet. Overall, Creative Commons likes the creator to answer a few questions before the license is made, as in, do I want to allow commercial use? Do I want to allow derivative works, which means that do you want other people to be able to manipulate your work? And last, do I want new work from it to be under the same license terms? Do I want new work to have the same agreement that I have made? Now we're going to go through some frequently asked questions, or questions I deem important, something I would want to know if I were watching a presentation on this material and what would be useful for me. First, what should I look out for? You should look out for pretty much everything on the internet. Images from Google, handouts, worksheets, texts, quotes, music, basically anything that is not yours or is not in the public domain. Public domain is considered anything before 1923, some things up to 1962 and 1978, and anything that is explicitly in public domain after that date. For example, anything under the Creative Commons public domain. Second, what should I do if I am or might be violating copyright? First, remove the item from the internet if it's on the internet. First and foremost, try to get rid of it so you can see if you are infringing on the rights of the owner. Second, cite the source if possible. You should always be citing your sources anyway. And own up to it. If your students have seen that you've done this, or if you tell your students, make it a teachable moment and correct the infraction. Tell them more about copyright, tell them more about Creative Commons, and maybe they can use these resources as well in their own presentations. Next, I'm going to compare educational fair use and Creative Commons. They're both part of copyright, but Creative Commons has added ways to personalize. They both protect the owners, but Creative Commons allows the creator to share culture while protecting the creator. And third, it encourages education and shared thought for everyone's benefit. They both do that. So basically they're both part of copyright, they both protect the owners, and they both encourage education and shared thought for everyone's benefit. Creative Commons is just a different way to do it, just to personalize it a little bit more, and the creator has more options in their copyright document. Next, I'm going to contrast educational fair use and Creative Commons. First, educational fair use rules began long before the internet, so it does not take into account the internet's allowances and limitations. Creative Commons was made after the internet, so it takes into account these things that we may come across in Google Images, etc. Educational fair use copyright is all rights reserved, and in Creative Commons, some rights are reserved depending on the specific license. So what rights do I have under Creative Commons? We're going to do an activity involving the different images associated with various contracts under Creative Commons. First, we're going to go over the images. Here are some Creative Commons symbols. There are 6 main symbols. The first one on this page has the maximum amount of allowance. Basically, all you need to do is cite the credit. The second image, the content must not be changed and credit must be cited. So basically, the content needs to remain the same, the original image needs to remain the whole entire time. You may not change the color, you may not change the background, etc. The third image on this page means that it's a non-commercial, must be on same terms, and credit must be cited license. So it can't be used for commercial use, you can't use it to gain money. It must be on the same terms as this license is right now, so you must use the same license, and credit must be cited where you got the information from. This next page, there are more Creative Commons symbols. These are the last 3 I'm going to go over, and the last 3 main ones. The first one must be on the same terms and credit must be cited, so you can pretty much do anything with it. But you must use the same license, you must allow other people to use it, and you must say who the original author was. The second image is non-commercial and credit must be cited. You can't use it to gain money, it can't be used for commercial use, and you must cite. And the third and last image is the most restrictive. You must not use it for commercial use, you must not change it, and credit must be cited. So there are different variations in the different licenses, and it depends on what the creator meant their work to be, and how creative you can get with the creator's work. Alright, here's our last part of the presentation. We are going to go over the activity directions. First of all, if you are watching this on YouTube, if you don't have a group, that's fine. you may think of a way to do this yourself. Just an easy way for you to remember the Creative Commons license images. First, you'll be grouped with the table you have chosen at the beginning of the professional development presentation. In your groups, you'll be given 6 symbols and their descriptions, all on separate small note cards, or if you're watching this on the internet, you may go back to the 2 slides with the 6 images. And as a group, you'll decide on the easiest way to remember what the 6 symbols mean to show the other groups in this room. If you're on the internet, you may look at the 6 symbols and figure out the easiest way for you to remember these things. So when you're looking at Creative Commons licensing, you may know if you can change it or not, if you can use it for commercial use or not, or just in your classroom. Last, your groups will have 2 minutes to share. So it's a 2-minute presentation. It shouldn't be that long. And you have 10 minutes to plan. If you're doing this activity, you may pause this video now for 10 minutes. Alright, now's the time where we're going to share our insights. I will call on one group at a time to share in under 2 minutes. If your group's idea is very similar to a group that already presented, only share what was different in your group. We don't need to reiterate anyone's ideas. And last but not least, thank you for your time and your patience. I hope this helped you.